spec and then turn the spec into a checklist, and then he's sure he's checking all the features. Perhaps it's true, it's easier maybe to create a checklist, it's pro. And there is another theory that specs make sure you cover it all. What are the codes? It's not clear. You cannot describe a picture in Word. Try to take a Picasso picture and describe it in words. It's not clear. There is no sanity check. There is less info, and it takes huge time to write it. And it's much harder to change. Go and find this feature that you want to change in page number 59. Trust me, it's hell. We have with us our friends from Citrus that received specs in the form of wireframe from Wix. I'm sure they were much happier with this than with a 200 pages Word document. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But there is another approach that is actually an approach that's being used in Wix today as an alternative to the wireframes by several product managers. It is a good approach, and it is called design screens. Some people prefer to skip the stage of the wireframes and actually start with a designed product. What are the pros? First of all, it saves a word phrase. We don't have a design and wireframes. We have one phase, design. And you see the real product as it's going to look at the end. It's a very rewarding experience. You design the product and you see how it looks. Allows you to actually evaluate. Like the sanity check is much more powerful as an example. The cones, it takes more time. The changes take more time. If I have a wireframe, it's very easy to add a feature to the menu, subtract, move the button to the right side, left side. Everybody can do it. You don't have to be a designer. Just drag and drop things on software like Visio or Balsamic. But changes take a lot of time in design. And I find that when you do design screens rather than wireframes, there is always this tension. Aesthetics is very important for a product. By the way, one of the things that I like a lot about working in Lithuania is that I don't know if you're aware of this, you are one of the best countries when it comes to web design. People, like a natural thing, design really beautiful products here. Trust me, that I've seen many countries. Lithuania is one of the best, if not the best, when it comes to design. But there is always this tension between aesthetics and functionality. In many times, to create a very beautiful product, we need to sacrifice some of the functionality. And in many times, in order to create a really functional product, you have to sacrifice some of the aesthetics. Although, you know what, I don't really believe in this, because I believe that something that is very functional will also be eventually very beautiful. And I find that there is a risk when you do design without the wireframes that you'll actually sacrifice the functionality on this altar of aesthetics in a too early stage of the product. But I have colleagues in Wix that do product management with design screens, and they do a great job. The Wix HTML editor, as an example, was created like this, with design screens. So it's legit. So after we have finished the wireframe, we're moving to design. I am not going to talk about this because we're in Lithuania, and you're, as I said before, very good in this. Basically, in this stage, the designer takes the wireframes and designs the product according to them, creates something very beautiful. What's important to remember in this stage is that you're not a dictator, and the wireframes are not a dictatorship. They're a means of communication. So if the designer thinks of changing your wireframe, that's okay, as long as you talk about it and you're in agreement. Pre-development. I'm going to talk with you now about 3 things that I think are essential, really essential to product management and definitely to delivery. And this is A/B testing, BI, which is a shortcut for business intelligence and monitoring. What is A/B testing? A/B testing is probably the most powerful tool a product manager can have. Imagine that we have a decision and we are not sure what is the right decision. The most classic one is, what is the price of our product? Should we sell this app for $3 a month or for $6 a month? Can be a very important question. Maybe $3 we sell us 10 times more, and maybe $6 we sell the same, so we can make double the money. There are questions of what should be our product marketing features. How should we call this product? How should we describe it? And there are also questions about features. Should we do a drop-down menu, or should we do button? Many times we do not know. A/B testing is a technology that allows us basically to send out there to the internet the 2 options at the same time. 50% of the users will get a screen where they see the product cost $3, and 50% of the users, which is option A, and 50% of the users are going to have the option when the product costs $6, which is option B. And we're going to do the mathematics afterwards and see which works better for us. The important thing about A/B testing, especially when you do product A/B testing, is to know what is good for you. I'll give you an example from an A/B testing that we ran in Wix right now. That's my app market. And as you can see, the basic alternative when I go into the app market is to see all the apps inside my app market. We have 160 apps. Basically, the most popular ones are on the top, and the less popular ones are on the bottom. Now, believe it or not, there's an A/B testing that's being run on the app market right now. If you go to Wix and you change the app market, you have 50% to get a different screen. Well, you won't see all the apps, you'll see featured apps. 30 applications that are doing best in the Wix app market, and you see only them. So there is an addition to the menu here, featured apps, and all apps is the second one, and the default thing that is opened is featured apps. It's kind of a random thing that happen by user. Every time I will go into the app market, I will see my option. It's not going to change for it. And we are basically testing what it does to our app market. And we're testing two features. We're testing how many people are adding apps, in which option people are adding more apps, and in which option people are buying more applications. Did we increase our revenues? And I can tell you that we saw an increase of 12% in group B, with the featured apps. In the ad apps, and 20% increase in sales. It's kind of amazing. It's a very powerful tool. I don't have to guess anymore. I know that option B is better. By the way, if you are entrepreneurs with no money and everything, you don't have to write the code for A/B testing yourselves. There are products out there that allow you to do A/B testing. Even if you do a website, a simple website, there are tools out there that allow you to do A/B testing. And I think that today this is the most powerful tool we as product managers have. And by the way, it helps us to cut features from the product as well. And always cutting features is good. You know, this is kind of a religious thing with cutting features out. BI. What is BI, or business intelligence? BI are statistical tools that allows us to know what our users are doing with our products. How many users have clicked this button? How many users have opened this menu? How many users hovered over something and something changed? And we get huge amount of statistics, and then we can take the statistics, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and know kind of patterns that go around our product. And this will allow us to create a better product as we go on. Another very, very powerful tool, by the way, also you don't have to write it yourselves. There are very cheap tools now for business intelligence. Many people tend to not to include this in their basic products. There's no bigger mistake in that. And you're talking about a person that tells you cut everything out, right? Don't cut BI and don't cut A/B testing out ever. Because it will make you guess rather than know. And this is an extremely, extremely, extremely not smart thing to do. The third thing, also important, also overlooked sometimes, is monitoring. Monitoring are the technical tools that allows us to see things about our product, such as is our product alive? Did it crash? There is something very nice about when your product crashes, you get an SMS. You get up in the middle of the night, you fix it in 2 minutes, and you did not lose your users. And there is something very sad about someone without monitoring that slept through the night, lost half of his users, and missed their launch. So monitoring, BI, and A/B tests are three things that are done in pre-development, and I do not recommend any of you who want to become ever a product manager to take them out. Very big mistake. Development. So we are now having a designed product and the wireframes, and we know what our product is, and we're going to write the code. And again, the most important thing in this stage is MVP, MVP, MVP. You guessed by now how much development time will be required to do the product. But right now the developers are actually working on it. And you may find out, or to be more precise, you will always find out, that things take more time than you thought. This is the reason why 100% of the software projects almost are not finished in town. So what people tend to do in this stage is they become some kind of the product Nazi, and they go to their developers and tell them, work faster. But if we have good developers, they're already working faster, and this does not work. And we end up not standing in time frames, or worse than that, in 90% of the cases, we do not finish at all. So in this case, you are cutting the flesh. You already made the decisions and took everything out. You are left with only the most important stuff. Now you take the most important stuff out and left only with the critical things. So in this stage also, cut things out. Again, MVP means minimal valuable product. You still need a product that brings value to the user. A store where you cannot do the purchase is nice, but is not effective. But cutting out features that are very, very important at this stage can work. And then comes QA. And in QA, you will always get bugs. You know why? Because that's the way software works. Now, you'll get a list of bugs, let's say 20 or 30 bugs. And because you're a perfectionist and great people and you want to be great businessmen, you know what you're going to do? You're going to start debugging. And you're going to fix all the bugs before you launch the product, right? Wrong! Because if you wait till all the bugs are fixed, you will not finish in time. Maybe you will not be finished at all. And this is a terrible thing. And we don't want this to happen. So what you do in this stage, you basically sit on your list of bugs and you divide them into two groups. Showstoppers. There are things that we cannot live with. They don't bring value to our users, they damage us. So these are the showstoppers and we fix them. And there are the bugs we can live with. And we will fix them in the future, if and when we have time. Now, this is a very painful thing for people with perfectionist tendencies such as myself. And yet, an essential part of delivery-oriented product management. So we're finished development, and then comes the launch. Now, I have been very pessimist in this conversation. Many of you who consider doing product management or becoming entrepreneurs in new applications might change their minds. But I can tell you that I write party time there because besides several other things and the birth of my children, I don't know happier moments in my life from this moment where the product is born. It is an amazing feeling. Seeing your dream, your idea, coming to reality and working on the screen is a breathtaking thing. It's a good time to party. Have some drinks, enjoy. Really, it's an amazing phenomenon, and all this hard work you've done so far is worth for this party time. It's a very emotional moment as well. Probably the reason why I'm still in this industry. It's a very, very happy moment. And then you do something that many product managers forget to do. You use the product yourself. Now, by that time, you're fed up with the product sometimes. You thought about it, you drew it, you tested it, the designer, the developer. But then the product is out there, your users are using there, use it yourself. Use it as much as you can. It's probably the best thing you can do in your time after the product is launched. Use the product. And it's amazing how many product managers do not use the product. And by the way, you should use your products on a daily basis. It's never finished. And then come post-launch, after the launch. The first thing you do is you use the product again. You check your A/B testing and BI results. You don't do anything yet, just make decisions. You go and you look at the users. You do usability testing. And like I told you at the beginning, you don't ask them what features to add to the product. Don't worry. They will tell you themselves. You don't have to ask them that. The idea is not to listen to them actually all of the time and do only the necessary things. But you should ask them because they will not tell you what you're not using, what things are distracting you, what is the cloud there that hides those things that you really want to do. Think Alta Vista compared to Google. I used Alta Vista, it was full of shit. Articles and news and stuff, and then came Google with the search box and nothing else. We took a big breath. That's an amazing phenomenon. Ask the users how to get there, how to get there. It's really important. And by that time, after post-launch, you learn what you need to do, and as the work is never finished, at least you got the product out there in the internet, now comes the planning of the second phase. How you do a second phase? We talked about this. It's just like doing a new product from scratch. You go back and you do a research, you think, MVP, what features do I take out? Do I really need a second phase? Or can I survive like this? Less support, less debugging, less everything. And then you do define the second phase based on what you saw from your users. You talk, you go back to the wireframes, you change them, designer, development, and so on and so forth. And this is basically delivery-oriented product management. It's nothing too smart out there. It's basically a call to action to everybody who sits in this room and wants to do product management in some stage of their career or become an entrepreneur in some stage of their career, to be committed to this very trivial thing of finishing the job and taking the product out there, which apparently 90% of us never get to. That's it basically. Questions? I will answer, I promise. Don't tell me that everything was clear, it's impossible. Yeah?
in your opinion, the best tools for BI testing?
You know, there is no strict answer for that.
For them, users.
You know, again, it depends a lot what kind of project you're working on. If you're working on a project and you want to afterwards talk to me and describe to me what project you work on, because they're very different. If you do a website, I would recommend on one tool. If you do an application for mobile, I would recommend on another tool. There is not a single tool that is good, and basically there are several out there. But we can talk afterwards on your project, and I can give you the specifics of the tools that I would recommend using in this. By the way, right now in Wix we actually use BI tools we wrote, A/B testing tools and BI tools we wrote ourselves. But that is in a very, very late stage in the project life.
Under a no-man approach, so you said the fixed budgets and limited resources, but how do you predefine the duration and the deadlines of the project?
Good question. Well, you know, it's a tricky thing, because in many cases defining the deadline is kind of a guess. And there's no real answer for that. You know, you estimate based on your experience and your knowledge when you can get there in reality. But the nice thing about it, that once you decide it, stick with it and cut the scope. And that is the key for succeeding that. Because the reason, you know, people in this industry are smart people. That's a big problem actually. They're very, very smart people. So they know it's a guess. They know that. I'm not renewing. I'm sure that everybody knows around that when I'm saying the product will out in June, I did not base it on a real analysis. I guessed. But I stick with it. I know it's in June. I can fix the budget. I know my char needs. I know more or less how much time